Hey everybody, welcome to episode 12 of Composing with Jerry. We finished the Brazen Serpent last week, and this week we get to listen to it in a final form. I spent some of the week mixing all the audio together and making sure that it sounded the way I wanted it to in my head. I'll discuss the procedure I do with that, the little process, and then we're going to listen to the piece from beginning to end, following along with the score. Speaking of the score, here it is. I print these on 11 by 17 paper. I have a lot of instruments. Sometimes it takes up the entire page. So it's by right, it's pretty tiny. But there's 21 printed pages, which is actually only 11 pieces of paper because it's front and back. And yeah, this is almost 18 minutes worth of music. When I get done writing a piece and I have the score all edited and exactly the way I want it to be, then I'll put it into one of these binders. I can get these on Amazon for about, I think 5 of them for 15 or 20 bucks. But they're designed as portfolio show off, binders for artwork. So when you open them up, they have these really thick protective covers, and then you have these really large page protectors where you put in your artwork. Well, they work perfectly for the 11 by 17 printed pages for scores. And over here, I like to put my handwritten notes and sketches that deal with this piece of music, just so that I can kind of follow along with what I've done. The process of going from beginning to end. This was an early version of the score that I put in here just so I could. It helped me when I was working on the choral parts, when I was doing all of the different aspects of that. So that was why those are in there. But I will replace this version with the final version after I get done editing all of the elements and making sure that it's readable on the page. That was one of the things I think that MuseScore does a little differently than Finale, is that when you're working with large scale scores, the default text and like tempo indicators and that type of thing are just super, super tiny, and you have to manually make them bigger so that they're more readable. So I'm sure there's a way to make all that the default, but I'm not always going to be working in these super large scale orchestral pieces. I mean, sometimes I'll be doing a string quartet or just piano and choir. So I don't want to make that, I don't want to change the defaults. I just need to make sure that all of the elements that I put on there are readable and big enough to follow along if I'm standing away from it and I'm turning the pages. So let's go ahead, and what we're going to do now is we're going to, So let's go ahead and talk about the mixing, and then we'll read through the score, and then we'll have a little bit of a discussion afterward, as also talking about what's going to be coming next. So here I am. I'm in Logic. I have gone through, and in MuseScore, when I export, I can export every instrument as its own audio file. And I did it in sections, so I put all of the here's all the woodwinds together. And these are the actual waveforms of the audio files for each. And I organized them in little folders here. Same thing with the brass. And then I did for the percussion. A lot more for there. I did it for the choir. Now for the choir, I have 3 different choirs. I've got the built-in oohs and ahs of the MuseScore choir, and I've got the Canti choir that has them speaking the lyrics or singing the lyrics, but it's a little more contemporary. But I still layered it with the other ones, which is the Hollywood sopranos and altos, and I had the Hollywood choir. But then I also have the Oceana choir for the snake biting scene, where they're just being more of a kind of a percussive part of the orchestra. So all those had there. And I made that into their own piece. Then I did strings. And originally my viola file was very wonky, so I re-exported it and it was much better. So that's been fixed. I just didn't delete that track. Then you've got the you have the special effects, the cage strings upper and lower, and then the tam-tam and the gong scrapes. So, and each of these, like if I'm going to go into here, I'll show you this. So if you click on the A key, it shows you the automation. And this, in particular, this is for doing automation for volume. See all this? These are all for volume. And so anytime I needed to make things louder or softer, I would take each section at a time. So I put all of these together, and I would only listen to just the brass, say in this particular case, and then I would adjust the volume as needed so that they would blend better. Or say if I wanted, like in this case, I wanted the trombones to stick out more. So in my original score, maybe the dynamic marking didn't get it the way I wanted it to, even though it was the proper dynamic marking, but MuseScore playback did not give it enough oomph that I wanted. So so I raised it here. And so anyway, that's kind of what that is for. I did it with each one of these. Here's the woodwinds, and as you can tell, I did the same thing. I've had to adjust the volumes here and there. I did the majority of this. Let's see here. I did it in the percussion. I did quite a bit, and each folder itself also has. But I'll talk about that in a second. But no, I didn't need to do a lot of that. Strings, strings. I did the most editing of the volumes because I needed to make sure that certain things weren't overpowering other things. And when you got into the main mix here, where then I mixed each of these folders, these groups, they're all groups, the volumes of each of those as ensembles together so that the entire thing would mix well. So here, in this case, the woodwinds and the brass were very loud in this particular section, and the choirs were getting buried. So I actually increased the volume of the choirs here, and I lowered the woodwinds and the brass, and also the strings a little bit. I really wanted the choir to come out there. And somewhere here, I needed the special effects sounds, like the glissando and the scraping, to be a little bit lower. So this is from front to back. Yeah. Okay. So, but that's kind of how I approached the mixing. I would take each section by itself, and then make sure all of the instruments inside were harmonious to each other as far as their volume. And then I would do the same thing with the brass and percussion and strings, etc. So, and then I exported it into a file. So now let's go ahead and read along with the score and listen to it from beginning to end. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to talk. I'm just going to let this play. We're going to listen to this. I've already edited this score, this video of the score in Final Cut Pro. And so you're going to see it kind of moving around, focusing on zooming in on different instruments and different sections that hopefully are aligned with where I think the focus should be for each of the screens that it has. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and listen through it and read along. So what'd you think? I liked it. I think that as a piece it was very challenging because in addition to just coming up with the musical elements, trying to get them out of my head onto the page was a challenge sometimes because I didn't know the software very well. And so every time there was something I hadn't done before, I had to look it up, and it kind of interrupted that whole process. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with this one. Is it a masterpiece? No. Did I still convey the ideas of the story? I think so. I think that that everything that I did kind of makes sense. Could have I done it differently? Yes. There's 100 different ways I could have done each segment of that story. But am I happy with the results? Yes, I am. So let's talk about what's next. I want to do another Gustave Doré illustration. I have not chosen yet one. I have this really big book on Gustave Doré's work. It's full of all of these amazing illustrations, these woodcuts and lithographs and illustrations that he did for so many different people and different stories and different books. There's Paradise Lost, there's Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. There's a bunch of, there's a ton of stuff here that he illustrated. And so it's kind of hard though, because this is like me in a buffet trying to choose what to eat. It's hard because there's so many different options to choose from. But I'm going to be coming up with like 3 or 4 options, and then we'll discuss those next week. And if I've already kind of selected one or chosen one, I will start discussing my ideas like I did at the beginning of this one. And I will be able to replace this printout from the Brazen Serpent to whatever we're going to be working on next. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for following along, for your comments, your support, keeping me focused on making sure that I did work on this every single week. I suspect the next one will be shorter. Not necessarily the piece of music, but the process and composing it will be. So please tell me what you think of this format. If you think I could make it better, please let me know. I'd love any kind of constructive criticism. I know sometimes I get long-winded, but when you're discussing something that has a lot of different layers and elements to it that you find important each, it's kind of hard to not be a little bit more verbose. There are some of these episodes have been really quite succinct, and there's no nonsense. Okay, here's what I did, and then we're done. But other times I like to actually discuss and talk about my decisions on what I wanted to do or the challenges that I was having at the time. So, yeah, this is still a not set in concrete type of format. So, let me know what you think. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week with ideas for new pieces of music.